Hey mamas, it's Kristen Noel, founder of the Intuitive Divorce, popping in here with my fabulous team member, Joe Young. And we are here with some really juicy, powerful, amazing after class musings. First of all, it was our last class of the year, right? Which is so hard to believe. I mean, I just can't believe it's like 11 days until we're going to be in a new year. And we wanted to pop in here because we never really know where our classes are going to go. That's for sure, right? Put your seatbelts on. But this is a really triggering time of year. This is a triggering time of year for mamas when they're not going through divorce. So I was just so glad that we had this chance to sit down, and it's amazing what we unpacked. And we really want to share it here because we know if one mama is going through this, another mama is going through another similar version of that. And I had taken a bunch of notes, and I actually want to start by saying this isn't about resolutions and finding your word for the year and the perfect vision board, although all those things are amazing, right? If they help you. This is really about setting yourself up well, setting yourself up well to get through this holiday, this year, this moment of messiness, this divorce. So I think this is probably a good place to dive in, right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that because even before class, and Kristen and I, we laugh about this all the time before class, even during these office hour classes where we allow the mamas to come in and bring whatever is coming up for them and they receive coaching around that. And it's such a beautiful class. We never know what's going to happen and it's so magical. But, we come in and we're like, okay, it's the holidays. We're going to talk about this and that. And then it starts, and one mama shares, and it leads to something with the next mama and the next mama, and the group resonance, which is why the group mentality, the group energy piece is so magical because sometimes you don't even know what's underneath something and somebody will say something and it's like, "Oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, I feel that also." Or this was my experience with that. And that's what class was this week and
Mhm.
I just loved the way that that worked.
And also, you feel so less alone. I think all
Mm,
so often divorce leaves you feeling so isolated and like you're the only one in this like horrifying situation, which is so far from the truth. And so the
yeah,
group work is really powerful. And it really
yeah,
is just women coming together and sharing in a safe space. And it's raw and it's real. And it has to be raw and real because you got to get it out. You got to have a place to be able to tell the truth of this experience and how you're feeling and what's coming up and the setbacks. A lot of the mamas, they'll be on a path, something happens, they get derailed, and that's okay. We just work through it. We try to
yeah,
get
yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I
no.
wanted to go back for a second to the whole truth bomb. Let's just put it that way. I thought it was so gorgeous this week when one of the moms, and this is kind of what set off the chain of conversation. She's fairly new to the group, and she said, "I realized that I've been lying to myself and trying to put on a front for everybody for so long so that nobody else knew the pain that I was in, essentially." And she said, "I can't do it anymore." And of course, you and I were like, "We don't want you to do that. Come here, bring it all. This is your space. This is the place for that." And I really think it's important to say that because as women who are trying to hold everything together, we do feel like, oh my goodness, I not only can't admit it to myself, but I certainly don't want anybody else to know what's really happening. And so they show up in this group, and all of a sudden, you're with other people who are experiencing certainly not the same things, but very similar feelings,
Versions of it,
versions
right?
of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And
it's
it's
triggering
like,
for
I
different
don't need to
reasons.
hide anymore.
Right.
And it is a place to get to come and show up and be exactly where you are, and it's the most beautiful thing to witness.
Well, first of all, it's this incredible commitment that these women are making to divorcing differently because God knows it takes a lot to be in that room once a week because life is full. They're working, they've got households, they've got kids, they've got a divorce, they've got their own feelings. And especially on the days when we're feeling the worst, so the days we don't want to show up. And of course, those are the days you need to show up. But I mean, mamas come to us from work, from the car, from, they're juggling a ton of things, but this is how they move the needle and start to lean in and learn how they can support themselves, how their needs, desires, and wants matter.
Yes.
But they can't, because typically the mamas that show up for the intuitive divorce, they are the people pleasers. They are the peacekeepers. They are the ones that want everyone to be happy. And they are the ones that have just run around, frazzled, worn out, and exhausted, trying to sprinkle powdered sugar on everything, but they hit a wall. And it's sort of like what we're doing is really helping them unravel that, just like disentangle from that way of being because it's no longer working. It's no longer serving them. And you can't pour from an empty pitcher, right? And so, of course, with Joe, as I always say, she's our guardian of our boundaries. So important to learn this new language and to be able to lean into it. Because one of the things that came up that I thought was so real was one of the mamas that was like definitive about what she was doing. And she's already told her husband that she wants a divorce and she's already taking steps and has a lawyer and all the things. But then she really succumbed to the opinions and feelings and emotions of others in her family regarding what they feel she should do. And I'm going to say two things about that. One, when you're worn out, frazzled, tired, and you've been up all night wrestling your fears, you are in no condition to make big decisions. And you're in no condition to explain yourself to everyone else. We really worked through this with her about getting still and pausing and taking care of herself and why that is so important.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would add there too is that nobody else is walking in your shoes. You're the one that's in the marriage day in and day out, in the scenario day in and day out. And like I said before, we've also done a pretty good job of not allowing anybody else to see how difficult that's been. So when we're finally at a place, and I know you and I both have talked about this in the
Mhm.
past personally, when you're finally at the place where you can admit this isn't working for me anymore and I'm so exhausted, and then you go to share that with someone else, they don't understand that you've been living that for the amount of time that you've been living that and what it's really been like for you.
I want to jump in on that also.
Yeah.
They also tend to make it about them.
Well, it is
It's like,
about them.
yeah, well, they're making
Mhm.
they're making it about them. And the other thing I want to just say that I'd love if you'd comment on is in keeping with that, when we are worn out and we're frazzled and we're feeling really vulnerable and we open up, um, and it's not necessarily because we invited it, but let's say someone in your family or your friends start giving unsolicited advice or opinions, that can take you down and derail you. But so can when you're in that state of mind watching the news, tragedy, things that are happening around you. And this mama was also really just succumbing to, it was like she was gathering evidence that like everything sucks. What's the point?
Yeah.
Everything sucks. And so
Yeah.
that's when you really have to just put the brakes on.
Put the
What
brakes
can
on.
you do? Right? This is to get back to safety, nervous system regulation, calm, stillness, so I can actually discern what is real, what's not real, what is mine to control, what's not mine to control. What can I fix? What can I fix?
Right. And also being mindful of what it is that you're focusing on, because we will always find and see what we're focusing on. So I had a conversation just today, actually, via email with one of the moms that was having a difficult time. And she said, I don't seem to be able to get myself out of this funk. And the conversation became, what are your thoughts?
Mhm.
Right? What are you looking for? So when you're lying there, are you thinking through all the worst case scenarios like our bodies are so programmed to do? Are you thinking about how this could potentially, all the what ifs of how it impacts everybody else and all of that? Or are you coming back to the truth that this is something you're doing that's in complete honor of yourself? Because that's what you haven't been doing all these years. So it feels strange, it feels new. But when you start to do that, you can start to go, oh, look at these changes that I'm making. Look at all the ways that I'm empowering myself. Look at all the steps that I'm taking to give myself a voice, to say that what I think and feel matters, to your point from earlier,
Mhm.
because we're
Mhm.
so used to putting that on the back burner. And so, are you looking for those things, all the ways that you're starting to show up for yourself? Because when you change the perspective of what you're looking for, you're going to see different things.
Mhm.
And so, I love this conversation and I love the realness. And yeah, when our thoughts start to take us down that rabbit hole, whatever that rabbit hole is, whether there's so much going on in the world, there's so many things I can't trust, whatever your mind is doing, stop it and go, what if I chose a different thought? Could I change the way I feel in the moment? It doesn't change the scenario, but guess what? How we see things is how we experience them.
Mhm.
So if we can choose to see them differently, we will experience it differently.
That's an important distinction. I mean, it would be wonderful if we could solve all the problems of the world in 2 seconds. Just snap of the fingers. But it is in that what was it that I said? It was non-judgmental self-awareness.
Uh, yeah.
It's like my favorite new phrase.
Yeah.
Um,
I call that piece of us the non-judgmental observer. Can we be
yeah.
the non-judgmental observer of what we're feeling and thinking and what's happening around us? So important.
And it may just mean putting a boundary in place for that day, that holiday, that weekend, that family gathering, whatever it is. It's checking in. How do I want to feel? And how do I actually feel? And how do I bridge the gap between the two? And if you really just at the beginning of this messy navigation, maybe just take the divorce talk off the table right now in terms
Yeah.
of other people.
Mhm.
Unless those other people really bring you just non-judgmental, unbiased love and support. Or it could be biased as long as it's supporting you. You know?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
the other thing I wanted to go back to was something that you said earlier around we talked about they want to make it about them. And I
yeah.
said it is about them. And I want to clarify that because anyone's opinion of what we're going through truly is about the other person. It's not about you. So if I show up and I say to you, look, this is what's happening in my life, and you have a response to it, it's because your response is about something that you don't want to feel or that makes you uncomfortable, right? It's not about the sharer. And so that's the piece to always remember is anyone's response to our process or our truth has nothing to do with us really. It has to do with the lens
Mhm.
that that person is seeing it through and what makes them uncomfortable. So it is really super important to discern
Mhm.
who we share with, who we're asking for opinions from. And yeah, that's a boundary for us to set. If I don't want that person's opinion, I can simply not share with them, or I can share with them and say, I'm going to share with you, and this is how I'm going to share. And I'm not asking for feedback. I just want to inform you.
Listen, we don't take divorce lightly. It's a very, very big decision. And by the time a mama gets to that point where she says, I want out, I can't do this anymore, I'm suffocating. The divorce is like planting a very, very vulnerable little seed in the ground, and it needs to be nurtured and it needs to
Mhm.
be protected from the elements. And you get to decide what that looks like. And it's like learning a new language because sometimes we're open books and we just give to everyone and we show up for everything and we do everything. But that's really not discernment. That's not a recipe for success. So, how do we set ourselves up to succeed? How do we best set ourselves up? Like I said, maybe for you, you can carve out some time during the holidays and journal and envision what you want going forward, what you want your life to look and feel like. Maybe you want to create a vision board. Maybe you just want to go for a walk. Maybe you want a cold plunge in a river in the snow. I don't know what it is. That's for you to decide. But you got to take an action step. Plant a seed. Plant a seed in that soil and figure out how you're going to nurture it and support it and protect it. And that seed
Yeah.
is you, right? That seed is you. That is your new year, your new you, your new way of being in the world, your new way of communicating, your new way of boundaries.
Yeah, and we talked a lot this week about that, and we talked a lot this week about self-trust,
Yeah.
leaning into the fact that we can always trust ourselves. And that's the thing when we talk about I've finally been able to admit the truth to myself about how I've been feeling and about how I want to move forward and how I want my life to look and feel. And those are the things that we can always trust, right? It's like you can
Mhm.
always rely on yourself because each and every person holds their own answers. And
Mhm.
so looking outside ourselves for validation, looking outside ourselves for happiness, looking outside of ourselves to feel anything that we want to feel, it first has to start inside and trusting this holiday season what you know, trusting what it is that you feel. And if
And I
you could
love that you're,
just lean into that and trust
yeah.
it, what would that mean? Right?
And I love that you bring that in because, again, that's the awareness piece. But remember, non judgmental. It's brilliant to start making connections where you can say, oh, yeah, I'm doing that people pleasing thing again. Or, oh, I am feeling badly because I'm giving my power away to someone else's opinion. It's just intel, it's just information. It's what we do with that information that matters most. And also, piggybacking on what you were just saying, this is nurturing your intuition. And
Mhm.
your intuition, I mean, listen, your intuition will not be quelled forever. Like it's going to come out one way or the other. It's like you're going to feel cranky, you're going to feel emotional, you're going to feel it in your body. Like your intuition is your best friend. Your intuition is like your best self saying, come on, come on, come on, come on. We can do this. We can do this. So this really is your intuition speaking. And one of the last things that I want to leave everybody with is your intuition is also playful. And
Mhm.
when you start noticing things, it's like when you get those beautiful signs, like whether it's like, oh, you're walking, you're hiking, and you see a leaf that's the shape of a heart, or you see a feather, which is supposed to be an angel, or whatever the messages are for you. We started unpacking that a little bit in class as well, because one of the most interesting things that's been happening is there are several women in our group who sort of made radical physical shifts, like cutting their hair really short or change. Like it was this, that doesn't mean you have to go cut your hair, but for them, it really was a shedding of the past, shedding of this weight, this metaphorical move. And then, of course, once we started unpacking that and talking about it, then everybody was like kind of adding in. When you, as Joe said, shift your focus on trusting yourself, shift your focus to hearing your intuition, shift your focus to paying attention to your body. What is it trying to say to me?
Yeah.
What does
And
it want
and
me to see?
mhm. That's where all the truth lies. So, yeah, I love that. And really choosing what you're going to choose to focus on this holiday season and
Mm.
allowing yourself to be included in that mix. We're so used to focusing on everyone else. What if you took a few moments, even if it's just moments, to say, what is it that I really want for my precious life? And can I start to make moves in that direction? I mean, what a beautiful gift to yourself.
And something to build on, right? And also to acknowledge that where I stand right now is temporary.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be in this divorce next year, in my holidays next year. So, what can I do with this holiday? Seize this present moment. That's the place to start. Because once you
Mhm.
start to recognize the power of that and you harness that power, there's no stopping. You're never going to
Yeah,
stop. You're never going to want to stop.
that's right. It's the gift of your own presence, the
Hmm.
gift of your own attention.
Probably the last thing to say about that is that oftentimes women, especially women that have neglected themselves, feel that it is selfish to focus on themselves. And nothing could be further from the truth because, and this is the way I always get them to sort of like recalibrate this is this how you would want your children to move in their life? Is this what you want to model for them? Is this the way you want them to feel in their body? And as soon as you say that to a mom, she's like, oh God, no, definitely, definitely. I want them to. So then model that and show up like that because the condition that you're in is the condition you show up to be that mother, to be that person that you want to be in your life. And you're
Yeah.
in charge of that. You may not be in charge of like the crazy narcissistic ex or soon to be ex, but you are in charge of yourself, right? That's the greatest
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah, it really is. And such a big part of our teaching is that teaching people that guiding women to understand that you get to choose what
Mhm.
your life is going to look and feel like. We really do have that much power. It's just how do we learn to harness it, right? We're magical creatures. So I know we need to sign off, and I just want to say to the community that's listening that we wish you the best of holidays, the most joyful of holidays, and focus on you for a moment. Focus on you a bit this holiday. What is it that you're longing for? And make
Mhm.
that your goal for 2025.
Mhm. Yeah, that's it. It's that simple. Seize your present moments. Your presence is the present for your children and for yourselves and for your life. So we see you. We are sending you love. We are sending you power. We believe in you. We know you can
Mhm.
do it. And if you're here listening to this, lean into trusting yourself. Just lean into trusting yourself. Don't overcomplicate what this season needs to look and feel like. Just be in that present moment. And we are grateful you are here. And if you want to learn more about us, check us out at intuitivedivorce.com. Our website is full of information and join our newsletter. And we send out lots of really powerful information twice a week. And we're on social media. And we'd love to hear from you. And you have an opportunity to book a strategy call. But most of all, just be good to you.
Be
And
good to
remember,
you.
this is
And we love
temporary.
you.
Well, we love you. I wore my love sweater today.